Are you stuck on the blues scale? Are you teaching or learning jazz but not sure where to go next or what to do? Let me show you the next steps to help you design your escape plan so that you or your students can move up to the next level. Hi, I'm Dr. Saul Richardson from Jazz Workshop Australia, and welcome to Teaching Jazz. Today, another video about jazz education, how to teach jazz, how to learn jazz. So let me tell you a story. Back when I was a teenager, I was maybe 16, maybe 17 years old, I was at jazz camp. I was in one of the bands there, and of course, what were we doing? We were learning how to play a blues, a 12-bar blues, because that's what you always do when you start out, right? We learnt the head and we played through the head and it was sounding great, the band was good, everyone was having lots of fun. I don't remember what the tune was, it was probably Now's the Time or something like that. And then it came time to take the solos. The teacher, he was a saxophone player, a great sax player, up-and-coming star on the Australian jazz scene. Lots of fun too. Really friendly guy. I'm not going to tell you his real name, but today I'll call him Jimmy. So Jimmy told us, use the blues scale. Just use the blues scale. He showed us what it is. He played it to us, we played it, and it was all okay. We took our solos. Didn't sound great, if I'm honest. We were all really just starting out in jazz. And then Jimmy demonstrated. He took a solo, and oh my goodness, it was something else. He was bebopping and he was shredding away, and it sounded just amazing. But it didn't sound like what we were doing, and it wasn't even what we were doing. He was doing things that were completely different. And I noticed this at the camp. All the best players there, all the teachers, they were doing all this other stuff. They weren't just doing stuff with the blues scale. There was far more going on. And I wanted to know, what is that stuff? How do you do that? So I asked Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, what are you doing there? How do you do that? And he said, so like, how do you do what you just did? He said, oh man, just learn your scales and listen heaps. That's what he said. By the way, for those of you who aren't from Australia, heaps means a lot. So learn your scales and listen to a lot of jazz. And that was it. He didn't say any more. He didn't demonstrate anymore, didn't teach anymore. We went on and played our rudimentary sounding blues scale solos, and that was it. So that day, I didn't really learn very much about playing the blues or playing jazz, and I didn't come away from it much better as an improviser. But it did trigger in me, even if it was years in the future, a lifelong commitment to wanting to help other people learn how to play jazz, and now learn how to teach jazz as well. I certainly wish that someone had given Jimmy some help in how to teach, so that he could have told me something more useful that I could have taken away and practiced and become a better player much sooner than I did. It took me far too long. It's a pretty common experience, I think, in people learning how to play jazz, that it seems to take forever, takes far too long. And one of the reasons for that is it can just be so hard to get helpful information and effective teaching. So in today's video, I'm going to help you set up your blues scale escape plan to move on into more sophisticated and higher levels of improvising. As I mentioned in my video about key centers, the blues scale is full of notes that can actually sound pretty terrible when they're played by students. And that video talks about a solution that I've found to the problem of getting started in jazz that doesn't use the normal blues scale in the traditional way. So it overcomes some of those problems inherent in the blues scale. To recap very quickly, if a tune or a section of a tune is in a major key or in a blues key, so for instance a 12-bar blues, then use the major blues scale to improvise. And if a tune or a section of a tune is in a minor key, then use the bebop minor scale to improvise. And as always, whatever we're doing with these scales, the emphasis should be on great sound, great style, and great rhythm or time. Those things are fundamental and they're overarching in jazz playing. So there you are. You're like the 16-year-old me at the jazz camp. Or maybe you're like Jimmy, who is a great player but doesn't really know, so just reflexively and automatically says, use the blues scale, man. Just use the blues scale, like everyone always does. So you're trapped. You need to move on. Don't worry. Let's help you to design your escape plan. The first thing that we're going to do is keep the blues scale. But Dr. Saul, you hate the blues scale. You keep complaining about it. That's true, I do. But I complain about the automatic assumption that it's the right thing to teach or to learn when you're starting out, because it's not. And also the implication or the suggestion that it's a really big thing in jazz. And of course, it is a really big thing in jazz, but it's not a big thing in jazz in the way that people always seem to think it is or make it out to be. So we're going to keep the blues scale because it is an integral part of the sound and the history and the tradition of jazz. We're going to keep it, but we're going to add things to it. We're going to add the major blues scale, and we're going to add the bebop minor scale. And the blues scale, in combination with those things, sounds great. It really does. Check it out. Once you, as a teacher or as a student, are combining the blues scale and the major blues scale and the bebop minor scale together in idiomatic ways, that means in style, in ways that fit the tunes and the style of the tunes that you're working on. Next, you want to start developing those scales by adding extra things to them. And those are going to be passing notes and other decorations to help you move to step 2 of your blues scale escape plan. Let me tell you about those things. First, adding passing notes to the major blues scale. You're really doing that by combining the major blues scale and the minor blues scale together. But there's more that you can do. So here's the major blues scale. Here are some passing notes. We've got, here's the 5th, here's the 6th, filling in between the 5th and the 6th with the sharp 5. 5, sharp 5, 6. Between 1 and 2. 1, sharp 2, 1, sharp 1, 2. Flat 3, chromatically up to the 5th. Major blues and minor blues combined. Passing notes as well. You're going to begin with tunes that are in a single key center so that you can focus on the sound, the style, the rhythm and time, those fundamentals, and also on other things like interacting with the rhythm section, stagecraft, learning tunes, that kind of thing. But then you're going to want to move to tunes that have multiple key centers. First begin with two major keys, 2 minor keys, then mixed key centers, a tune with major keys, minor keys combined. A Night in Tunisia, for instance, Bernie's tune, Blue Bossa, minor key, major key, combined in one. Increase the rate of harmonic change even more. Something like a rhythm changes, for instance. Treat the A section as all in a single key center. It's all in B flat, all in the major blues scale, but enhanced with passing notes and the minor blues scale as well. Then you can treat the bridge, the B section, as 4 different keys. D, G, C, So, then back to B flat. Key centre still, not chord changes, not guide tones, but changing at a faster rate, faster harmonic rate. By the time you or your students are trained to track time in those 8-bar sections, 4-bar sections, and then 2-bar sections, by the time you've done that, then you're ready to start moving on to chord changes. And that's going to be your next step in a future video. Right, well, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this or found it useful, please consider liking or maybe even subscribing. That would be awesome. Thanks very much, and bye for now, and happy teaching.